That's not funny.
Oh, and the world's going crazy.
Stop, drop, and talk.
We've got no time for bullshit.
Stop, drop, and talk. With Ava, RJ, and B-Rock. It's Stop. Stop, drop, and talk.
Has nothing to say.
Welcome all and all, everyone out there, boys, girls, everybody of everything, whatever you are. Welcome to Stop, Drop, and Talk. It's so great to be here. My name's RJ Hale. Thank you all so much for joining us. And with me, as always, is the incredible, the beautiful, the talented, the amazing, the shining beacon of stopping and talking and talking. And I can't even say it, but it's Eva.
Hey, that's me. I still, every episode, just wait for you to be like, bruh!
And then everybody goes like this. Oh, I'm just kidding.
We have so much to talk about and catch up on this episode. We've got a really incredible guest coming up, Matt Pinfield.
Yes!
You guys are not going to want to miss this. It's going to be so good. How's it going, B-Rock?
Let's give it up. Let's give it for B-Rock. Yeah.
Beautiful, the talented, the wonderful. No, yeah, I'm doing good. We do have a lot to talk about this episode, so I'm ready as always to just get right into it.
Well, great. Well, the first thing we need to talk about is happy Coronaversary. Yay! Although it kind of feels more like this. That's right. We are at 1 full year of coronavirus. So how are you guys celebrating the coronaversary?
Yay.
Sitting at home and watching Netflix? Cool. All right. Like the same thing we've been doing all year. The other thing that's happening coming up very soon is, I think it's, what's today? In 2 days, it's St. Patrick's Day. Oh, boy.
Stop, drop, shenanigans. Stop,
This
drop,
song
shenanigans. You'll never get me
just has so much great meaning now.
It does. Who would have thought?
I know, right? The other thing that I wanted to bring up, before we go into Some Fucks Given, I first wanted to say what a great episode we had last week with Plush. I absolutely love those girls to death. They were so amazing. But I wanted to kind of share a little bit about what I was dealing with personally last Monday. And luckily I did my very best not to bring it to the show because last week I nearly had like a full-blown anxiety attack. And I'll explain. So basically, there's 3 things in my life that are that take up most of my life right now. Like number one, of course, is my band Hailstorm. I've been with them for 20 years. I've got another band that I'm getting off the ground full time with our friend Taylor, and that's taking up a lot of time and it's a lot of writing, a lot of work, and of course I got Stop, Drop, and Talk, which requires a lot of brain power to come up with these topics, to write out all these things, to write a different high note every week, and so basically I started out the day with a writing session with Taylor. And then I got called in the studio with Hailstorm. And then I had Stop, Drop, and Talk, of course, that night. But I didn't even finish my high note. I didn't even finish writing out the layout and getting everything that I had to do to prepare for the show. So even the Plush girls were hanging out before the show. And I was still trying to get everything together. I was still making your B-Rock Shenanigans song. And so during the show, I didn't notice it while we were filming. But when I watched it later, I noticed that I have picked up a really weird physical tick when I am at peak levels of anxiety. Now, I have been diagnosed with anxiety and depression from my therapist that I used to go to in LA. And I'll admit I need to find a new therapist out here. I need to start going again because now I have like this weird eye twitch that happens when my brain is filled up with smoke and I'm having like full-blown anxiety symptoms. And it really kind of freaked me out and kind of scared me last week. And I'm going to go see a doctor about it, but it was just very bizarre. And it did kind of worry me a little bit about my stress. And I do have a bad habit of saying yes to too many things and spreading myself too thin. I'm a workaholic and I can't help it. But I wanted to thank you, Eva and B-Rock, for picking up my slack last week. You guys did such a great job. It was such an important show. It was International Women's Day. It was Women's History Month. And Plush was so amazing. That was like, they're such a great guest. And I held it I held it together as best as I could. And I'm bummed that it had to happen on such an important show. I'm really glad that we pulled off the show. And, I struggled. I mean, a lot of things happened. I struggled through my high note because I didn't have time to rehearse it. I hope I did a good job. And I wanted to just do my best to honor Women's History Month and the great women pioneers in the field of science. And I'm so proud of the high note that I wrote. It's definitely something near and dear to me, and I wanted to really kill it. And I don't know if I did, but I tried. So with no time to prepare, and it's a live show, so there's no do-overs. And I don't know if it's a hailstorm thing or a common thing with most people in the music business, or maybe just rock bands, but you can't plan anything. Everything's just on call, last minute, and it's crazy. And you just have to be prepared all the time. And of course, the pandemic didn't help. But I'd like to ask you, Eva, because you also have a lot of different careers and a lot of things that you're doing, and maybe you could offer me and some other people some advice on how to balance so many things in your life. And on top of that, you're also a mom.
Oh, the biggest thing that I can say is force yourself to have downtime. I know for people like you and I, that's incredibly hard because we do have a hard time saying no to things. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're so overwhelmed. And I could tell something was maybe going on last week, but I couldn't quite pinpoint what it was. But the biggest thing I can tell you, force yourself to have some downtime. Just force yourself. Like, I've actually been contemplating taking social media off of my phone because that's a thing, is that, when you have all of that at your fingertips and you're reading all those clickbait news headlines that, are adding to your anxiety that you don't even realize on top of your already full plate. Exactly. Those are always things that you can cut out. Another big thing for me, and I don't care if people think this is dumb, but essential oils all day long.
Oh, wow. Yeah. No, I'm all about that. Those kind of natural ways. I don't know if I'm at the level where I need medication. I know a lot of people I know take medication for anxiety and it really helps them. I'm going to start going to therapy again, and I'm going to find a really good doctor out here. I still don't even have a doctor in Nashville. So I'm definitely going to try to prioritize my own mental health because I have neglected it a lot with trying to stay, commit to the things that my obligations,
And another thing, CBD for sure is a good one, but I also just got, someone just said it. Amanda just said, I use CBD oils and it helps.
I want to try that.
I also just got an app called Breathe, and it's like a meditation.
Yes. I want to start meditating, maybe even doing yoga or something.
You guys help. It's just forcing yourself to slow down.
I'm curious if you guys have any weird physical tics that affect you when you're reaching levels of anxiety. You do, Brock?
Well, you guys remember season 1, right? I think it was like at some point Eva was like, and it was a funny joke, but she was like, Brock, you need a Xanax right now, I do. I mean, don't get hard on yourself. I know I didn't notice the eye tick too much, RJ. I didn't know it was anxiety related, but I have the same thing, and you can really notice it more in season 1. Well, there, I just did it. When I kind of get anxious or nervous, I'll look off to the left or to the right.
So
and that's kind of
eye things.
Right. That's kind of my nervous tick. It's funny because I did to the right there, but I'm not too anxious right now. But that's something I do when also I talk to somebody and I'm feeling kind of socially anxious. I'll look them in the eye for too long and I'm like, should I really be looking at them this long in the eye? So I'll like stare off to the left. And I've actually had some people while I'm talking to them, like look behind them kind of like, what is this guy looking at? Yeah. So, nervous thing, you definitely, anxiety is, it's a fear of something that you're really not sure of in the future, but also you really need to focus on breath, because when you're having anxiety, you're not breathing correctly. You need to,
I think during the show, I hold my breath the whole time. Cause
right.
Yeah. It's kind of nervous. You're like, oh great. Like so many people are watching and this is now out there permanently and it kind of messes with your head. But, thank you, Brock. Thanks for opening up about that. And, it just goes to show that even we are crazy, normal people, just like all of you. So I'm actually curious to hear what our listeners. I'd like to have them chime in. Maybe if you guys would like to take this opportunity to use our comment section right now to discuss some of the maybe physical or mental or nervous ailments that you have, or that you suffer with, or that you are trying to combat or trying to better. And let's open up our comments to kind of open up that community for people to discuss these things and maybe offer some advice to each other. I think that'd be really cool. Yeah. How do you get through life without exploding?
And just so everybody knows, we do go back. We do read all the comments.
Yes,
usually after every show, we discuss some things. So I think these are things that'll just, help not only us to see these things, but also maybe other viewers that are reading the comments.
Exactly.
So yeah.
We'd love that. I mean, like, this whole show is meant to be an escape from your day-to-day grind, and it could also be a very therapeutic place for you to talk about these things. So this is definitely something that we're passionate about, something that's on the forefront of our minds all the time, and kind of why we started the show to begin with, to help us cope with what's going on right now, especially with all this pandemic stuff. So for sure. Well, thank you guys so much. That was really cool. Thank you, and thank you for the advice, Eva. Let's get into the show then. Let's get into Some Fucks Given. You ready?
Ready.
All right, let's do it.
Some people got many and others have none. We're all going crazy, so come and get one. It's Some Fucks Given.
And Brock, you did a great job coming up with some of these topics. What would you like to start with?
Thanks. I'd like to talk about how certain Gen Zs, not all of them, are trying to cancel Eminem at this moment.
Oh, geez.
And
I heard about this.
Yeah, and it's for Love the Way You Lie with him and Rihanna. And specifically where he states, if she ever tries to leave again, I'm going to blanking tie her to the bed and set this house on fire.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, have you heard of Eminem's other stuff?
They're going to be really pissed when they hear Kim.
I know, right?
Right? They're going to be really pissed when they hear that song Kim that he wrote about his ex-wife. And he has his Kim tattooed on his body. Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
Well, the thing is,
pretty on brand.
Right.
It's pretty on brand. I mean, everyone knows Eminem, what Eminem is.
Yeah, for sure. And Rihanna backed him up. Corey Taylor came out with some really good quotes about him, backing him up as well.
Oh, yeah. I think we have some of those.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he said, to me, this is the most dangerous when the mob decides that you're gone. I mean, this is Caesar at the Coliseum, for God's sakes. And then he went on to say, I'm not saying that certain things haven't been said that easily offend people. However, the flip side of that is you can't make a joke anymore. Even in the cleanest situations, I mean, they completely turn on you, and there's not one hint of satire, no hint of irony, just outrage. And then he says, if people can't understand the difference between a metaphor and complete reality, then we're in real trouble. And I totally agree with him, because this is art.
For sure.
And it's not like he's a politician. He's not a hate group leader. He doesn't actually go up on stage and say, I think we all need to do this. Like, it's music and it's art, and it's his way of channeling his emotions into music, into his heart. And it's a way for him to get it out of his system. And I would also like to make the argument that people that listen to that, maybe it's a release for them. Maybe it's an emotional release to get it out of their system, and that way they can connect to it, they can relate to it, and it might actually help them get through the struggles that they go through in everyday life. And maybe I would make the argument that it might even prevent people from taking it to a violent place in real life.
Well, you can't cancel Rap God for one.
That's for sure.
That's
you can't do that.
Not going to happen.
Well, if you're gonna cancel him, then you're gonna have to go after the whole crowd. But the thing I do like about Eminem is he's recently been fighting back. He has such a huge catalog that he doesn't need to come out and say anything. He just released his old song Tone Deaf from last year, and the lyric was, "I won't stop even when my hair turns gray, because they won't stop until they cancel me." So he doesn't even need to answer. If people come at him, he's so used to it over the years that he's like, hey, I'll just post this song or post that, and it totally.
Well, and everything. Eminem is a brand in and of himself, and it's a dark brand, and people know that. And it's like, if you don't like it, like you said, RJ, he's not a politician, then fucking turn him off.
He's talking.
You can avoid him.
He just talks real shit, and these are things that obviously like go through his mind, and that probably race through the mind of a lot of people going through really hard times domestically or whatever. And honestly, like what Corey Taylor said, if it was something he really wanted to do and he wasn't just using it as a metaphor, then he wouldn't have opened the song with the lyric, "I can't tell you what it really is. I can only tell you what it feels like." Right there, he's saying it right there. And he's not. And the important thing is context. Context is key because he's not praising domestic violence in the song. He's just talking some real shit while realizing the error of his thoughts. And we need to always take context into account.
True. Good.
Well, and think of like what Dr. Buzz Mingan says about, people that have all these issues. It's about perception. Everything comes back down to perception.
That's right. I could even make the argument that real and honest art, like music, even at its angriest, can also be a release of bad emotions. Eminem channels his bad feelings into his music so they don't get channeled into something destructive to himself or others.
That's right.
And I've heard many people say, and many psychologists and people that study the brain say that there is no correlation between art and violence. And the other thing is, I'd actually like to ask a psychologist about the effects of art, whether it's light or dark or anywhere in the spectrum. I would argue that art in any form is always a positive thing on our brains.
Well, and can we talk about if they're going to try to cancel Eminem, they need to cancel Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty and like all the shit that people are out there letting their fucking 6-year-olds play. Like,
right.
I'm sure they're trying. I mean, yeah, if you're going to throw Eminem to the wolves, you might as well throw away 99.9% of other real artists. And then the only thing you can listen to is Kids Bop or the Sesame Street soundtrack. That's all you got,
Anyways, we could do this forever. So I got one more, and this one's a more comedic some fucks given, so thank God. So Nick Harrison, he's a school teacher, and he decided to educate his class on the ABCs in a way that would make Jack Black from the School of Rock pretty pumped about. Dan, do we have a clip of that? He did it to Korn's.
Now let's try to say our alphabet, A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z, A.
Oh, I love that song. That is so cool.
Oh, and it just so happened that on his TikTok, where he posted it, Jonathan Davis saw it, and he posted it to his Instagram story and approved of it, and so did Fred Durst. So it's kind of going viral right now. I guess he does this stuff quite a bit. So.
Have you guys seen the? Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna read the response that this guy Harrison, what's his name? Nick Harrison responded, and he said, quote, "I should be in bed right now. I should be sleeping. I am a teacher. But when Jonathan Davis posts your video on Instagram, I can't even talk." And then he goes to say, "Man, thank you guys so much. You're awesome." So he was thrilled that Jonathan Davis posted his video.
Have you seen the version of that that's done by it's the My Neck, My Back song?
No,
I don't think so.
What?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I have to look that up. Oh man, that's
yeah.
great.
You're gonna have to Google it. I don't think we can talk about that. I mean, obviously the My Neck, My Back song is incredibly raunchy, but this teacher made it into an ABC song, which is hilarious and super catchy.
Maybe she'll post it then. Speaking of TikToks,
I think she's dead.
Oh, is she?
Ooh.
I don't know for sure.
I can't remember. Oh man, I'm blanking.
I don't remember. I guess we're gonna have to Google it.
But speaking of TikToks, something a little close to home for me. AJ from the Backstreet Boys posted a TikTok dancing to one of my songs. He danced to "Freak Like Me" from Hailstorm. Dan, play that clip. Oh my God, AJ, if you're listening, please come on Stop, Drop, and Talk. That is so awesome. That was so
My
cool.
inner 12-year-old girl is screaming.
Oh my God, I was so excited. I was like, okay, I'll be honest. Like, I never really was like a big Backstreet Boys fan, but that's amazing. Like, a Backstreet Boy knows my band. That's like when like you made it.
Wasn't the Grammy, it was the AJ from Backstreet Boys video.
And
amazing.
Him, he's a big rockhead.
Maybe the Grammys will, and the award goes to AJ for his version of "Freak Like Me" by Hailstorm or something. Yes, so of course, the Grammys happened, everybody. The Grammys, the 63rd annual Grammys just happened. Amazing. And I think that's a perfect transition to go into our next segment, which is my absolute favorite song Out of all, you can listen to the whole Hailstorm catalog. My absolute favorite song I've ever written is a song called The Eva Award Show Gossip Hour, which isn't actually an hour, but feels like an hour's worth of laughs crammed into around 10-ish minutes segment. And it goes a little something like this.
The Eva Award Show Gossip Hour, which isn't actually an hour, but feels like an hour's worth of laughs crammed into around 10-ish minutes segment.
So Eva, if you wouldn't mind, please, let's start Eva Award Show Gossip Hour. Let's talk about the Grammys. What do you say? Shall we?
All right, let's do it. The biggest
it.
night is that happened last night. The Grammys, like RJ said, 63rd Annual Grammy Awards. All of the major categories, all 4 major categories, were won by women this year, which is so fitting because guess what, guys? It's still International Women's History Month.
That's right.
Chuck Noah hosted and opened the show with a joke. Of course, it was like in conjunction with it being, you know, we've all done Zoom for however long, that the Staples Center backdrop was not a fake Zoom background and his naked uncle will not be walking around behind him. Harry Styles opened the award show with the performance of Watermelon Sugar.
God, he was good.
He also won a Grammy for that song in the category Best Pop Performance.
Yes.
It was his first ever Grammy nom and win, so big night for him for sure.
I know One Direction never won a Grammy. Crazy.
No.
That's what I found out today. I don't know. But you can fact check me.
Billie Eilish and her brother Phineas performed Everything I Wanted and won Record of the Year for that same song. Billie insisted in her speech that Megan Thee Stallion should have won. She was also nominated, but luckily nobody jumped on stage with a microphone and pulled a Kanye.
Yeah,
God.
Right.
It was totally good. But don't feel too bad for Megan. She cleaned house at the Grammys last night. She won Best New Artist, which she's the first female rapper to win in this award in over 20 years. She also won Best Rap Song and Best Rap Performance. And yeah, for Savage with Beyonce making them the first female pair ever to win that.
Hell yeah!
Amazing.
Yeah, pretty wild. But Megan was just like in shock when she did her acceptance speech. Her jaw was like on the floor.
I know,
which is insane. And she was just like completely in shock. Her mom just died, so this is kind of like a big high for her. And I'm sure she's still grieving, you know, with the loss of her mom. And this had to help her spirits a little bit. Not saying you can replace that, but you know.
Yeah, she's signed to Rock Nation. So apparently Beyonce and Jay-Z are really, really tight with her. Like she's probably like an older sister figure to her, you know?
Well, she said she saw Destiny's Child when she was little, and she was always inspired by Beyonce. So it kind of works like that. Yeah.
You're so right. When she got up there, she was just like looking at Beyonce, and her jaw like completely did drop. I did
like,
see that.
Is this real?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, you know, speaking of Beyonce, she won for Best R&B Performance for Black Parade. She broke the record actually last night for the most Grammys awarded. Female artist ever.
Yes.
Ever.
She won 28 Grammys, tied with Quincy Jones.
But yes, like the most awarded female artist ever at the Grammys. Amazing.
Yeah, it's super insane. Lots of other winners. Hayden was the only rock performance, really, but rock always gets snubbed. We'll get into that here in a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just the other big one I wanted to touch on. Taylor Swift was a big winner. She did great. She performed 3 songs, and she became the first female artist to win 3 times in the same category for Album of the Year, which she won last night. So that is huge.
Yeah.
In country music, Mickey Guyton is a Black female singer, for those people that don't know. She sang her song that she was nominated for, Black Like Me, and she made history as the first Black female artist ever to be nominated in a country music category. Black and LGBTQ artists have, you know, been minimalized, it seems like, along the way. And so this was really, really big for her to be able to do that. It's just awesome.
Yeah, especially in country. And also, she didn't get any support from country radio. Like she didn't get played on country radio, I found out.
She was played on, I would see it on the highway on Sirius XM, but beyond that, not really.
Not
Yeah.
really any
She's
radio
been so snubbed. It's insane.
Yeah, absolutely. I was so happy to hear about that. It's just great to see more diversity coming to country music. I think that's a really cool, positive change. Reminds
I
me
think it's
of
wonderful.
Lil Nas X, kind of like that.
So before we get into the rock category, I think we want a little help with this one, little input.
Oh yes. So I think it's time for our special guest to. And of course, our guest this week is the amazing Matt Pinfield. The legendary Matt Pinfield. Welcome to the show. And we have him on Stop, Drop, and Talk.
I want to make sure you can see me.
There
There we go.
A lot better.
I'm
Good to
right
see you,
by
buddy.
the window here in Hollywood, and it's like the window. For some reason, my blind doesn't seem to want to close. It's
Stop complaining about how sunny and beautiful it is in LA, okay? I don't want to hear it.
We just had a snowstorm here, man. So yeah, I don't want to hear it for sure.
It's great to see you guys. RJ, I've known you since you were probably 12, right?
Yes. I don't know if you remember the Dewey Beach Music Festival. I think was the first time we met before we were even signed. It was like probably, God, it was like so long ago. No, this was a long time ago, but you're right. Like you have been a part of my journey and my career since I was like a young teenager. So I'm so happy to have you in my life for this long. This is so cool, man. I
love it, man. It's amazing. Actually, your sister Lizzie was my guest on my radio show last night.
That's right.
Which
Yes.
was awesome. And we talked about that, like being at those, the Millennium Conference, another music festival thing that happened in Harrisburg when you guys were kids. And I remember saying to you, you guys are super talented. You're going to get there. And I was right. So I feel vindicated in every way.
He's like, haha, I was right.
Man, you called it.
So Matt, okay, so historically the Grammys absolutely snub rock and metal.
Yes.
Which is insane. What is your take on what happened last night at the Grammys, especially historically with one of the rock categories for being best rock performance was like all female, I believe.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
I just everything seems to be so politicized. And I was actually on the board of governors of the Grammys for a term. So I was elected, and in New York City, I was one of the people that was really involved in going to DC and fighting for artist rights, for royalties and performance rights. And
Right, yeah.
I just sometimes feel, and look, I love a lot of people that work there, and I've been in the industry for so many years. I've been doing radio for 37 years. I started in television 28 years ago at MTV. I'm an elder statesman now. I laugh about that, but I feel like sometimes the Grammys miss the mark, and sometimes things become very politicized. It's it's all about, well, we've got to do this year in this category because we fell short another time. And for me, I don't love that, to be honest with you. I feel it should be completely on the merit of a record. A perfect example, even though I think the song was a great song, the year that obviously Gnarls Barkley's Crazy was like the record of the year. It was number one alternative, number one pop, number one R&B, number one it was number one Hot AC in every category. Yet it was beat by Not Ready to Make Nice by the Dixie Chicks. Good song, but that was all because of the George Bush thing. It was like people were voting on the reaction to the comment George Bush made to try and cancel the Dixie Chicks. And but obviously the record and the song of the year that year should have been Gnarls Barkley's Crazy, because it was a blowtorch.
Yeah, so I completely agree. I think that there, like you said, like even like this year, The Weeknd got completely snubbed.
Yeah, that upset me too, because let's face it,
boycotted.
Really important record. It was such an important record this year. So that was really, I was perplexed by that, to be honest with you.
Because he technically had the biggest record of 2020. It's
by far
just
so to not be recognized there, was really confusing. But look, I'm happy for everybody who wins. I know everybody who goes out there and writes a song and performs. I'm really happy to see anyone who gets accolades. I think it's a really great thing. But there are definitely some things every year that seem to miss the mark. And rock is always a questionable category, right? So let's talk about it.
Yeah, so I thought it was cool. I mean, I thought it was really cool that like this, it was kind of history making. The category for best rock performance was all female artists, and that was the first time I think in Grammy history that's ever happened. So that's really cool. But when it comes to rock, and I know that Fiona Apple won, I think in '97. She's won a couple Grammys in her career. What do you think of the Grammy going to her?
I think Fiona's record was really strong. And I think she's a talented woman, but I think, again, I think the category was really like everything was done because in a reaction to, remember, there was, the guy that was run out as the head of like the Recording Academy because of some of the sexist things. And they felt that, there a lot of this, there was a lot of turmoil, a lot of controversy. I think again that was a reaction to that.
Well, that's definitely a positive thing that comes out of something negative. I mean, it's great that they're, they feel like that's a responsibility, I guess. But.
I agree. Well, I totally agree. I mean,
a lot of the people in that category, like Haim and Brittany Howard and Grace Potter. I mean, they're all
Grace Potter should have.
Phoebe Bridges and Big Thief. Hell yeah! I mean, like it was a great lineup, but not really hard rock though.
Yeah. That's the only thing. I think rock is an alternative. I think there's a really interesting blurred line on what they chose as rock. I don't think there were certain areas of rock represented there. Although I think they're all like Grace Potter's fantastic, and so is Brittany Howard. I mean, I love all those artists.
Yeah. Oh, there she is. We love Brittany. Oh, I was so happy she won Best Rock Song. So like her, like I'm just like, just give it to her. She's so great.
Yeah, I was glad. I'm always happy because I love. For me, Brittany Howard's one of the stories I love because she was a mail carrier before like she got into the music thing, and she was like in a cover band that did like Bowie and T-Rex and Lou Reed songs, and then they're doing their own thing. And I thought that I've always loved her for that. And I always love a story like that. Somebody that comes, like as an underdog and has success. So
how about the Strokes though? The Strokes won Best Rock Album. What do you think about that? They were up against Fontaine's DC, Michael Kiwanuka. Man, that's a name. Grace Potter and Sturgill Simpson. What do you think about that?
I think it's interesting. Sturgill being in the rock category. I always thought more. Sturgill's more a country artist, but I do love Sturgill. I love the Strokes. I think they probably should have got it when their first album came out too. And I think there's some great songs on that new album. I'm really happy for the guys. They've been friends of mine forever.
But I'm with you there. Like it's a big night in rock music, and it's a great night too. And it's just a small section of the whole Grammys. So it's an opportunity to really put some steam behind new bands, up and coming bands that are holding the torch and moving into the future. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I love Fontaine's DC. I think they're, being a band from over there in Ireland, they're part of a new movement over there, and they're very cool. They're very cool. Of a lot of post-punk. I've seen them live with that band Idols, and they, they're really cool. They're very different, and they're very confrontational and abrasive. When I say abrasive, I just mean that in that confrontational way. But I think they're great.
I should have won.
I don't know. I'm glad the Strokes won.
I'm gonna
be honest.
They put their work in, right? The Strokes.
Like I said, I've always loved the Strokes, and
I love their reaction, like because it cut out on Zoom, so they were like, "Do we win? Do it?" And then they were like, "Ah!" They started that was really cool.
I thought that was cool. It's like oddly enough, like I've known Nick Valencia, the guitar player, since he came up to me on the street when he was 14. So it's kind of almost like you and Lizzie in the same way.
Totally.
Years later, he came up to me and goes, Matt, you may not remember this, but I came up to you and stopped you on the street, and you were so cool to me. He goes, you took the time to talk to me for like 15 minutes. And he goes, years later, I ran into you again, and then, so it's Grammys, people can argue over the Grammys.
Oh, yeah.
Every year, there's a lot of people I just wish, like the harder rock and metal side of things were represented a little more. I felt like, it doesn't, I just think that that's one of the things that's missing. I think one of the funniest, well, actually it wasn't really, I'm sure, funny for Dave because he's a friend of mine, but Dave Mustaine, when those guys were going up to, like, even though it was in the streaming portion of the Grammy Awards when they won a couple of years ago, they actually played a Metallica song while Megadeth were walking up.
Oh no! Oh
God.
And people were like,
embarrassing.
Going
Oh
out.
God!
Oh, no.
I still think that Metallica at the Grammys performing with Lady Gaga, I feel like that was a setup.
Like they sabotaged it.
Sabotaged James Hetfield's mic. And you could see how livid he was. He kicked that mic stand and was pissed. I think he broke the guitar at the end of the performance.
Wouldn't you be too?
Yeah. Because it was like Metallica at the Grammys. Like, finally, mainstream rock is, going to make some headway here on the show, even if it's just in a performance. And then that happened.
I agree with your the people that are like Rachel that's up there and some of the other people that have been weighing in that are watching us right now. I just feel like there could be more categories, like basically dedicated to rock.
Yeah.
And more subgenres because rock is a multifaceted format of music, and there's so many great things that it feels like, like there's a lot of stuff that was left out. That's all, and you're talking to a guy who, like I said, I was elected to the board of governors of the Grammys. I've been a part of the Recording Academy for years, but I'll be the first one. I'm not going to like candy code it. I think a lot of stuff that could you seriously use some fixing,
Well, what did you think about Body Count winning for Best Metal Performance? Because they've been around forever. They definitely earned that.
Yeah, I love those guys.
Yeah, that was cool, man. Again, he made a great speech surrounded by his family. They were screaming and freaking out. And also, I love that it's a huge win for the diversity in the metal world. It's a majority Black member band and one Cuban American member, and so it's definitely a nod to that, But also the other categories were great. Code Orange are awesome. Yes. In This Moment are our friends. Huge congrats to In This Moment and also to Indigoot Entertainment, our management. But I also found out that also Power Trip and then Poppy is the first female solo artist to be nominated in that category, and she also performed her song "Eat." Oh, did you see that at all?
Yeah, I saw that. Poppy was great.
I thought she killed it, man. She was great.
Yeah, I love Poppy. I thought that I thought there were a lot of good people in that category. Certainly,
yeah.
And so.
We know Code Orange and In This Moment and all the I mean, it was definitely representative of some great metal bands, but you're right. Like that was basically it. All the other rock categories were more branched out into like more alternative and kind of, blurred line genres.
Last night I played on my radio show, I played speaking of In This Moment, Maria Taylor and Lizzie's cover of We Will Rock You. Which
I love that cover.
It's so good, and it sounds so great on the air, and it's so good. It's a great female empowerment version of We Will Rock You.
It's really so funny that you say that because I have a metal burlesque dance group, and that cover of that song is in the dance group, and we play with fire fans during that song. So
that's awesome. It's
an insanely amazing cover. I love it. It like gave me goosebumps the first time I heard it.
Yeah, during the interview, guys, Artie, you'll get a kick out of it because your sister Lizzie, she's so great, and she'll she'll be self-deprecating sometimes, and she's really humble. And she goes, "Well, when I had to do that lead at the end, like they go like, oh, you got to do it." She goes, "I'm responsible for about a quarter of the guitar in Hailstorm," but she nails it. It was great. Her part doing Brian May was awesome. Brian May would have loved. I'm sure he's heard it and loves it. It's so good.
Now, Matt, what did you have her on? Because you have the 95.5 KLOS in LA, right? New and Improved.
I had her on that. She was on that. It's called New and Approved. And speaking, that's there. I am. Just a couple weeks ago, Angus Young checked in from Australia from AC/DC. But that's my set there, and that's my Sunday night radio show, which streams everywhere. But it's doing really well in Los Angeles. I had a great rating in the first month of a 14 share, which if you know about radio, that's a huge share rating. So, I'm very grateful to be doing. I love the show. Corey was my guest. In fact, that quote that you gave, RJ, that Corey Taylor did, that's from my show.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Yeah, Corey's my boy, man. I love that guy.
When did you start that show, Matt?
What's that? I just did week 9 was my week with Lizzie.
Okay.
And so and then I have a special edition. Speaking of the lockdown, next week on the show, it's like 21 songs that got you through the lockdown on the anniversary week of the lockdown of rock songs
Killer.
this year. And then Jacoby from Papa Roach is a guest after that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We had him our first season, I believe. He is such a fun guest to have on.
That's my
He's
boy,
great.
man.
Oh, he's
That's
such a good guy.
outside NRG Studios right there. That picture is, which was
Oh,
recently.
that's right.
He played me a bunch of the new tracks from their next record, and the stuff sounds incredible. It's so good. So my guests on the show so far have been like, Chris Robinson from the Black Crowes. Taylor Momsen was a lot of people, the press picked up a lot of that interview. So it's just been, and of course, it's just been a really fun show to do. I'm 10 weeks in now. I've been doing this other radio show for 10 years that's on all over the country, syndicated, called Flashback, and that's a classic rock history show. So I've been doing that, and it's on like 100 radio stations in the U.S. and Canada. So
Oh, wow. Congrats.
That is wild. So let's talk about all the other stuff you have going on here, because not only do you have Flashback, the show you just talked to us about, you have a book that came out in September of 2016 called All the Things That I've Done.
Yeah. It's funny, the song. Well, there it is. It's my Alfred Hitchcock.
Improbable rock life.
The book itself was a memoir. Pretty much up until that point, probably till about my life till about 2015. So there's time for there's a lot of chapters for the next book. But that the title of the book is based on a song the Killers wrote. Brandon Flowers wrote about me the night he met me.
No way.
You know that song that goes, "I got soul, but I'm not a soldier"?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So that song he wrote the night he met me, I was trying to sign the band. I went to Vegas, watched them rehearse in their. It reminds me of when you were younger, RJ, because they were playing in Ronnie Vannucci's parents' garage.
Oh my God! Wow.
And they had already written Mr. Brightside and a bunch of these "Smile Like You Mean It," and
they were just about to pop off.
Yeah, they were like literally. It was between Columbia when I was doing A&R there. I did A&R. I was a vice president of A&R at Columbia Records for 7 years, and but they ended up signing with Island Def Jam because Island Def Jam made them an offer they couldn't refuse of a lot more money. But I mean, if I was the guy signing the checks, it would have been a different story. Yeah. But the consolation prize was that after dinner, Brandon Flowers, I said, "Hey, can somebody take me back to my hotel room?" And Brandon was like, "I'll drive you back." And we got in his car, and he was like a bellboy at the time. So he had like a beat up old AMC car with just a cassette player in it. We're talking about like mid 2000s. And we were singing to the Beatles' Help. He goes, "What do you want to listen to?" And he had 2 Beatles cassettes. And I went, "Let's listen to Help." And then we sang like all the songs, like in the 15-minute drive, like Help the night before, You Got to Hide Your Love Away, top of our lungs. And when we got back there, I told them the story that I just flown.
That's amazing.
To doing this thing for the U.S. Army. I was actually going and mentoring soldiers that were musicians that came back from Iraq and Afghanistan. Some that were wounded and some that weren't. But it was a program that I was asked by the U.S. Army to do, and of course I said, "Yeah, of course I'll volunteer my time, anything, for the soldiers and for my country." So, I went and did that, and that's where that line of that's where he got inspired him to write, "I got soul, but I'm not a soldier."
That's incredible.
So
you were talking about Columbia Records, and I just have to bring this up to see if it's true, because it was like 2000. I don't know. I was like a 10th grader. And Crossfade was here in Rapid City, South Dakota, and they had a hell of an album.
Yes.
Is it true that you kind of oversaw that? And
yeah, I actually helped give them their name too. They were called Sugar Daddy Superstar. It's in my book too.
Oh God, man! Why would they change that?
Well, because Sugar Daddy Superstar like a disco record. I said Sugar Daddy Superstar sounds a little bit too much like a disco record.
Not very on brand.
And so I gave them a list of of just ideas. I wasn't forcing them on them because but they picked Crossfade, and then I oversaw the entire making of that record. A lot of it Ed Sloan had recorded in his basement already, and I brought Randy Staub to mix the Black Album for Metallica and a bunch of other records into And then I helped arrange a couple of songs. You know, it was a lot of fun. I really loved working on the project, and that Crossfade record did well. It sold 2.5 million copies. So I love the record.
Really well, yeah.
Yeah, I love that
Play
record.
with them.
What's that? You played
I
with
play
them?
with them. Yeah. We played a bunch of shows with them back in like 2000. Oh gosh, 2005, I think. Like
Yeah, it's
when
about the time the album came out.
we just
You know-
got signed. They started putting on shows, and we did a bunch of shows with them and Seether and Dark New Day. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. You know, that record was one of those records that it was on the chart for like the single was on the literally on the active and alternative chart for like 72 weeks. It took that long, and it got all the way to number 2 alternative, and it was held up by Green Day, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, and it went all it went to number 1. So what
Is that the single Cold?
Cold, yes.
Cold, and then
What
Colors,
I really meant to say.
Colors was on the next album, right?
Yeah. No,
RJ.
Sorry.
Colors was on the actually on the same album. It was the 3rd single. We did
Oh, okay.
So Far Away was the 2nd single. And it's funny because it was only a minute long. And I remember driving over the George Washington Bridge, listening to some of Ed's demos. I'm like, Ed, you got to finish this song, man. I go, take this part, you know, like in the beginning where it says, I've been changing, but you'll never see me under the vocal. That I said, put that in the chorus right after you say So Far Away. So kind of helped arrange and change the song. And Ed took my suggestion. And that was another big active rock single. And so was Colors. I mean,
Thanks for answering that for me.
Yeah.
Cool,
Dork
man.
mode for me.
So getting back to the Killers, they did a pretty big shout out for you at the forum after an accident that you had back in 2018, December of 2018.
yeah, that was. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, there I am in the hospital.
Oh no, God.
Tell us about that accident.
That was, guys, one of the craziest experiences of my life. That'd be good for book 2. Yeah, I was walking across the street coming from a coffee shop here in Hollywood, and a woman ran a red light and was going 40 miles an hour. And I literally, she wasn't there when I was in lane 2 looking this way. And then I turned when I was crossing the lane 3, and I see the car gunning towards me at 40 miles an hour. Luckily, I'd seen her. I would have been under the car. I jumped up, caught my leg, and it broke my leg. It snapped it in half. And then I went up through her windshield. All right. I literally, it tore my head open. There is a scar from here to here that they did a really nice job of sewing up, and it tore part of my ear off. I went through it. I like a bullet went through her windshield with my head. And then she hit the brakes, and I spun off the hood of the car, and I landed 15 feet away on the street, which was unbelievable.
God.
He basically told me that I was a miracle, that I wasn't.
Wow.
I was bleeding out everywhere. Like when they finally got there 9 minutes later, luckily I hadn't severed my femoral artery because you would bleed out in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
They didn't get there for 9 minutes. And then they put me on a tarp, put me in the EMS truck, cut all my bloody clothes off, put morphine in my arm and said, can you feel your toes? And I went, yes, I can feel my toes. They go, you are a miracle is what they said. They basically, I don't like, and there's
Dan.
Oh, yeah, Dan.
But I just want to say, like, I'm very grateful to be alive. I realize every day is a gift. That was one of the most incredible experiences ever. I mean, my friends rallied around me. It was wild. TMZ like broke the story, so then it was everywhere, and they were really TMZ. Like, a lot of times, they will bust people's chops, but they really like me, so they ran this story for 3 nights, and then they like interviewed me in my hospital bed on FaceTime because they were blown away at my positive attitude. And I started walking again in about 8 months, but I was on a walker when I went to that show where the Killers were, when they played. I was the Chris Cornell tribute night. I'm like in a walker, in a wheelchair. I'm like, but I came back. I just worked so hard at physical therapy, to get well. And now I hike Griffith Park like 4 times a week. And
Hell yeah.
So any like long-term effects of that?
I mean, I have a metal rod in my leg, so I have a titanium metal rod that, when it gets cold, sometimes it will hurt, but, and who knows what the long-term effects are ever, when because of, my head got hit pretty hard. I mean, when I landed on my back and my head.
Yeah.
So far, I've been very lucky. But you know how crazy it was? My girlfriend at the time, who I'm no longer with, but my girlfriend at the time, when like a month after they sewed up my head was like glass was still coming out of the top of my head. Like there was literally, they didn't see it when they sewed it up, and your body rejects the glass. So the glass was being pushed up out of my head. So, you know, it's a miracle that I'm here, and I'm very grateful. I look at every day as a gift that I'm still on this earth.
I'm not surprised considering how bad the drivers are in LA. You know, I mean,
that's true. That's true.
Was she intoxicated or anything, or she just ran a red light?
No, I think she's texting. That's what their guess was.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yep, sounds like texting.
Don't text and drive.
They love to do that out there, and it makes me so angry. I'm glad you're okay, though.
Still here, yes.
Hell yeah, man. He's a $6 million Matt.
You know, guys, I'm super grateful, and you know, and right now I just passed 10 months sober too. So I got sober, and I'm feeling really good. So I'm just like,
and you just recently went skydiving, I hear. A couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's me. Actually, yeah, I've decided that, you know, now that I'm sober, that I would do a ton of like action sports things with my friends, and I have a bunch of friends of mine in Orange County. And that's a whole group of us, and we just like jump out of planes, and we take you know, like 4-wheel, they're called razors, and ride around the desert and go over dunes. And you know, a lot of people will roll them because they have roll bars, but I've been very fortunate. I've been driving like 80 miles an hour over those dunes, and
I have dumped one of those before.
Ooh. You have dumped one?
Oh
it's
yeah,
easy, right? It's easy to. I mean, I was fortunate.
We were dinking around in a field. It was raining, and so the grass was wet, and we were spinning cookies and taking it off jumps and just being dumb about it. But yeah, it's not hard to do that.
Yeah, it is. You know, that's what the roll bars are there for, to save you.
Yeah.
I know, Eva, you'll agree. It's like you are so strapped in. You're like an astronaut. I mean, you are. Like
there were 4 of us in it. It was a 4-person razor, and we had bruise marks from the seat belts.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
You know what? I'd do it again. It was super fun.
Yeah.
Really awesome.
Even if we roll it, it sounds like you're kind of an adrenaline junkie.
I am. There's no question about it. You know, it's the same for rock and roll. You know, it's like, because I love music so much, and the same feeling that rock and roll has given me since I was a kid. And I just love music in general. I mean, I love all different styles of music, certainly, but rock has always been my main fun.
Being 10 months sober, I mean, that's almost the whole pandemic so far. So
a year,
right? Yeah. What would you give? Do you have any advice for people that are in recovery or that, you know, struggle with addiction?
Yeah, I do. And I've, been doing a lot of service work recently. And, there are recovery meetings on Zoom. That's the place to go. And, the important thing to remember is you're not alone. And, Chris, 28 years, fantastic, man. Chris Smith, that's fantastic. Seeing that right there, and thank you so much for full text in effect. Thank you for saying that as well. I'm very, very grateful. I got, and thank you, Rachel Penny as well.
Yeah. The comments are
coming in.
Love, man.
Thank you, guys. Buddy, I want to tell you all, thank you so much. I really appreciate everybody's support. And what I've been doing is, it's been really important to me to give it back to people, because, when I relapsed during the COVID, which so many people did, I was used to going out to rock shows 3 nights a week, going out to dinner, going to recovery meetings, like doing things that, you do, because, when you get sober, it's not like your social life dies. It's not supposed to be that way. You're supposed to actually live a good life, which is why I do the things that I do. But I was like, I'd gone through a breakup not that long before that. So I was living by myself, like all meetings had basically stopped. The Zoom thing really hadn't been perfected yet, but now it's great. You can find great AA meetings. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have used that word. You can find great recovery meetings.
Yes.
Through, any kind of recovery you are. I mean, it means anything for people, any kind of thing that you are having problems with, whether it's, gambling or overeating or whatever happens to be. I'm just saying there are recovery meetings for everything. And if you're struggling with any of those things, those meetings are available. You can look it up online. I do want to say I'm super grateful that a lot of our rock community came to my rescue during that period of time, guys. I don't know if you know the story, but Rolling Stone did 2 big articles on it. And on my recovery. First, when I went into treatment, and then about a month after I got out. And I was so absolutely grateful and blown away by the fact that, people that like whether it was Rollins or Tom Morello or Brent from Shinedown or Johnny from the Goo Goo Dolls, all these guys that I knew in rock and roll, they all donated to pay for my treatment. It was a friend of mine put together a GoFundMe, and I got to be honest with you. I was like, at first I was like, you can't do that, because I was already on my way to the rehab, right? And then my friend goes to me on the way up. I go, so who helped Music Cares, which is a Grammy organization.
Yes, we love them.
They're a great organization. They helped out as much as they could, but my insurance wouldn't really cover it. And
right.
And then he goes, I'm putting together a GoFundMe. My friend Chris Trevero, who's like, one of my best friends. And I go, what? You can't ask people for money during a pandemic. I go, people are struggling. I was starting to lose my mind because, I had felt this incredible guilt. I mean, just because I didn't want to ask anybody for anything. And I think that's the problem with some of us alcoholics is we're afraid to ask for help. And that's the main thing that I want to tell everybody. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You're not alone. Yeah. And so I got up there, and then all those musicians and all those people and a lot of my fans and my old coworkers and the old president of MTV, they all put up all this money to make sure that I got the right treatment, and I'm not going to let them down. I mean, I'm accountable to every one of those people. And Variety recently I was in the recovery issue with, like, Rob Lowe was on the cover, and it was the Osbournes, obviously Ozzy and Jack and Kelly. Yeah. And who else was in there? Elizabeth Vargas from ABC News. They were all talking. There were stories on all our journeys. And I'm grateful, man. So for me, I know that I have to help others. It's important for me to help other people out there that are struggling with alcohol and drug addiction. And that's what I'm here for. But, I'm living proof that you can actually have a great life and enjoy life and being sober, because I think people think they're going to stop having fun, but and I help with a lot of charities. I do a lot of charity work for, like these organizations like Road Recovery, who put instruments in teenagers and young people's hands that have been struggling. So it gives them something else to concentrate on, not alcohol and drugs, and then to learn how to play instruments. And, like every cool rocker you can imagine has come down and helped that Road Recovery organization. Like I got Joe Perry to come down there from Aerosmith, and and Jerry Cantrell. Like, I mean, a list of guitar.
Nice. You have met and worked with everybody. Like speaking of great life, like, holy crap. You just have like all these amazing things going on. There's you with Paul McCartney, like it doesn't stop. Like, you don't stop. I don't know how you have the energy to do all these things.
Yeah. And there, and there's co-host and Iggy, there's little Steven.
Do you feel like these kind of things and working as much as you do is like what really keeps you going and what really kind of keeps you accountable?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I really like to be busy. I think I'm really fortunate right now because I've been extremely busy. I think the thing that a lot of us worry about, there's Perry Farrell and I from Lollapalooza. That was one of the interviews for that this year when they did it virtually. I think it's really important for me to spread this message. I used to be the guy who was like, oh man, I don't want people to find out. You know what I mean? And, and there's Anthrax right there. But I mean, I used to think, oh man, I've got this problem. I've got to hide it. Do people know I'm going to lose work? And the truth is, it gets the best of you anyway. So people do know. They know you're struggling. They know, even though you think you're hiding it very well, you're not. So the great news is, by me coming out and telling my story the way I did in Rolling Stone, I know it helped a lot of people because I got letters from all over the world. But it also helped me in a big way because it lifted that like stigma off of me worrying about it. And the truth is, if people see you trying to change your life and to do something, like to actually do the work to be accountable and not let that take you out and make you unreliable and things like that, people will want to work with you and they will help. They will support you.
I think it's something very common in the music business because it's always right there. I know that from going on tour, there's booze in the dressing room, there's booze, there's beer, it's everywhere. And you're right. I think there was a stigma attached to being sober for so long, you think, oh God, they're going to think there's something wrong with me. But I think that there's more awareness now. I think that people are more sensitive to that. And you're right. When I went sober, it just felt great waking up every morning and feeling great. I stopped drinking for a long time. And one thing I would do is I would go to bars and I would get non-alcoholic beers. So I could still hang out and I'm like stone sober. Have you ever done anything like that? Like, how does your social life without drinking?
Yeah, you can do it. Like, I would do something like get a Diet Coke. Nobody knows if that's a Jack or a rum and Coke. Or, if you don't want to tell people, because you don't always have, basically you don't have to like share your whole story if you don't feel it's going to be beneficial to you. I mean, I'm in a position where I really knew that I had a platform and I needed to help others. So that's why, because I've had such a large platform for so many years, it was important for me to tell the story to help people. But I will say that what you can do is things like I did, like order a seltzer and cranberry juice. It looks like a vodka cranberry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does.
So, I loved it.
So speaking of like, wanting to spread your message and, like knowing that all of these other people are struggling, not just with, alcoholism, but mental health things, like you said, overeating, all these different things. You were really close with Chester Bennington and Scott Weiland.
Yeah, and Chris Cornell as well.
And Chris Cornell. Were there signs along the way to you that said they needed help?
Yeah, of course there definitely were. Like I saw, Scott come in and out. Where he was doing well for a while, and other times where he wasn't doing as well. There was Soundgarden there, and I just but I'll tell you, at the end it was interesting because Chester had reached out to me 3 days before we lost him, and and the last time I saw Chris, there was this crazy stalker that was after him. That was so like while he was on tour with Nine Inch Nails, I remember that I was the only person he would let backstage. And I went back and hung out with him for like 2 hours. And Chris and I always talked about real things. And so did Chester and I. And Scott, too, was very open. We were real friends, me and these guys, and I love these guys. And we shared these struggles, you know what I mean? And the Chester thing really came up quick. It was a shock to everybody. Shocking. His best friend is one of my best friends. And when I was literally doing an interview for one of my syndicated radio shows, and I saw it on TMZ about Chester, and then I called my friend, and he goes, "No, it's got to be a hoax." I'm like, "No, brother, it's on TMZ." And it was, and it took, those funerals, and I was devastated. The one, when Chris died, I was absolutely beyond myself. And Chester, I mean, I lost all these friends. It just breaks my heart, that these guys that I loved so much, that, the mental health, depression, and addiction took those guys away, and even Lane Staley, and I look at these guys that were such incredible songwriters and performers, and were a big part of my life, because not only did I love their music, but they became my friends, and we did so much stuff together. And we talked about real things when we hung out. We talked about real things that were going on in our hearts and our minds. So it was these were devastating losses for me and for the music community.
It definitely made a lot of sense listening to Chester's lyrics in Linkin Park now, and because I know that he had a really hard past, but you never saw it in his mannerisms. You never saw it in his performance. He was absolutely flawless as a singer and as a front person up until his death. So that was a real shocker. Scott Weiland, on the other hand, though, I remember I did a show with Scott Weiland at the Wildabouts shortly before he died. And you still see videos of him performing with STP and Velvet Revolver and just killing it. And then you see videos of him performing shortly before his death, and you could just see that he's not there.
He's just checked out.
It was so devastating to see that.
It was heartbreaking. I brought him on stage one night in Carlsbad, California, the last time that I saw Scott alive, and he was 2 hours late to the show, and I knew that he was struggling. I went back and talked to him because David Bowie said to me, before David Bowie passed, David Bowie said to me a long time ago, he said, "I know your friend Scott is struggling. If you want to connect him with me, I'll talk to him," because Bowie had been clean and sober for a long time.
Oh, that's incredible.
And I relayed that message to Scott, but it never, sadly, we lost Scott. It never got to happen. And then, of course, David had been sick for a while, so David had passed. So I lost so many people that I loved in a very short period of time. But I will say the thing about Scott was, and here's the thing that always blew me away. And tell me if you don't agree with this, RJ. And I think you've seen this stuff too, B-Rock and Eva. Even when Scott was firing on 40%, he still had a lot of swagger. But he still knew that there was this talent that Scott had. Except, you were like wishing he was like, wishing he just was, the whole thing's crazy. And I'm grateful for the years I had with these guys, and I love the music that they've left us. And I plan on always, letting people know about them and keeping their music alive and their spirit. But it's very heartbreaking. But I know that spiritually, those guys would be really, really happy to know that I'm doing well. And that's
why is it? It just, to me, it's like, why is it ironically these like top like greatest of all time people like Chester, Lane Staley, Chris Cornell, Robin Williams, all the Scott Weiland, all these figures are iconic. Yeah, and why do they go so soon? Chris Farley, exactly.
Chris was a sweet guy too. I got to know the set of Saturday Night Live, and such a good guy. It's like, somebody tried to say that sometimes what happens with some of the artists is that they have to live their pain and their experiences a lot of times every night on stage and have that responsibility. Yeah. And I guess part of that might be part of it. But I got to be honest with you guys. Chester used to check in on me when I was having a rough time. Chester would call me and go, dude, are you okay? Yeah. Those guys would always, Chris, Chester would always check in on me because Chris and Chester, they had long periods of sobriety. Mm-hmm. So Chris and Chester would check in to make sure, like, see how I was doing, make sure I was doing right. They'd get word from our other friends in our community and go, hey, Matt, man, are you doing all right? What do and those guys were there for me, so that, and the fact that Chester reached out like 3 days before we lost him, and his voicemail, I still have. I don't know why I just haven't erased it. I don't listen to it. It's too painful, but it's still on my phone. It's still in my voice messages. And there's he's just like in a really great mood. Like he was at that moment in time, 3 days before we lost Chester, he was really happy. He was like, he was just, he was in love with life. And that's why it was such a brutal shock. Yeah.
Well, that's even like, the interview that Kate Spade's dad did after she committed suicide. He had talked to her, I believe he said something like an hour before, and she was talking about future plans and sounded really upbeat and really great. And I think that's it sounds like kind of a little phase that people that are suicidal kind of go through, was they're kind of lying to themselves about where they're at mentally. And then it's like they all of a sudden they go from this to just boom, rock bottom. And it goes so fast.
Yeah, and you think sometimes, guys, it's also like it's because it's a chemical imbalance too. I think sometimes, where things are going very well, and then it can really be manic, and
something can probably really upset you just out of the blue.
No, I know I can relate because I was diagnosed with depression and high anxiety, like I mentioned earlier, but I channel it through my music. I use music as therapy. So I think a lot of artists that gravitate towards that level of art, and the ones that rise up to making that level of amazing art must have a lot in them that they have to channel therapeutically to get it out of their system. So that has to be a factor as well, right?
Absolutely.
And a lot of people have a hard time expressing verbally what they're feeling or what they're going through. And it's a lot of that time songwriting is like journaling basically for them in a more creative way.
Yeah.
It's true. You can go back and listen to the lyrics of any of the artists that we just mentioned, Lane definitely, Jerry wrote the majority of stuff for Alice in Chains, but Lane definitely co-wrote a bunch of stuff. And seriously, that at one point those guys were kind of in the same place. So there is that side of it. And Chris, you go back and you listen to something like The Day I Tried to Live, and you hear it differently, or you hear Crawling differently by Chester.
Crawling, yeah.
These songs, they take on, like
Giving Up.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of crazy, but I just want you to know. I mean, I think they'd want me to stay positive and do what I'm doing right now, and I'll bring the mood up with you guys. But I'm so grateful. You know, like there's so many fun things happening. You know, I did this show with my friend Ash Avildsen directed this show that's debuting on Amazon Prime on the 25th called Paradise City. There's the billboard. The Sunset Strip. And this is like, it's Andy Black from Black Veil Brides is in it. And, but it's got like actors from, like from Sopranos, Sons of Anarchy.
Wow.
Also from Entourage. It's got Bella Thorne, that young actress, and that great kid, Cameron Boyce, who passed away, had that seizure. It was a tragedy. And he was lost, but it's his last performance. It's a series about a rock and roll band, and it's pretty cool, and it's got great people in it. And I'm in 4 episodes. I play myself, and so I'm interviewing like Bella Thorne in one, and and in another, and I'm like on stage and some stuff. But it was so much fun to do, because I like doing things like that. Like I in the past I was on that show Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll on FX with Dennis Leary, and I was in an episode of Portlandia where I played myself with Fred Armisen, and and it's even funnier. One thing I'll tell you guys that a lot of people don't know is I was also a recurring character in a Nickelodeon kids show called The Naked Brothers Band.
I read that today.
And now, of course, Matt Wolf is like actually a full-on actor. He was in like Paper Towns, and he's in a bunch of other movies. But I played their nemesis. The thing was, the director wanted me to be Matt Pinfield, the mean version, because I'm like always hating on these kids and being terrible to them.
What is it like, Matt?
Though,
when you're playing yourself, do you have to like hype yourself up? Like, oh, I gotta get in character, man.
You're an embellished version of yourself.
Yeah, it's really funny. I just kind of go with the flow of whatever it is. And also. There's Fred right there, actually.
Oh, and Dan Catullo. What a coincidence.
That's really cool. And speaking of, we're going to be shooting this other show starting on the 22nd. That's going to be great for rock fans. Finally, a music competition show that is for rock lovers, right?
All right.
And so it's, I'm one of the 3 hosts of the show. It's called No Cover. And Lizzie is one of the, you can see, look, it's Gavin Rossdale from Bush. Lizzie is there. Alice Cooper.
That's Bishop. Right.
You know what I mean? It's Tosa Navasi. It's like, and then, Katie Babcock, of course, who from Octane, and Kellen Quinn is there, and myself. That show we're shooting, that's going to run for, we're shooting that for, I think like 2 weeks straight. And there's bands flying into, now that COVID's not as insane. There are a lot of people flying into Los Angeles who are shooting the show, but I'm super excited. There's 120 minutes, and
there we go.
And that's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, correct?
Yeah, they did a really nice wall hanging thing on the Rock. There it is, right there.
That's awesome.
Wow. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and how I found out about it, guys. And I've spoken at the Rock Hall, right? So I've been honored there. They did a thing where they did a series of people they honored, and then you go and speak, and that happened in 2008, but how I found out about that being on the wall there was somebody from where I grew up in East Brunswick, New Jersey, was like posting on Facebook, and they wrote, "Hey, one of our hometown boys made good. I'm at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame," and that was the picture that they took. It's a giant rubber sign, and it's cool with the raised lettering, and I was really honored by that. I thought it was a beautiful thing to be in there.
That's great.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Oh, there's Dre and Eminem. That's cool.
I remember growing up, watching MTV when they still had, some music on and all the good stuff from like it was like 90s, late 90s.
Beavis and Butthead?
Oh yeah, all that stuff. But I remember watching Matt Pinfield on MTV, and and it's like, it's incredible to me getting to know more about you, because you're so multifaceted and so multi-talented, and you've done all of these incredible, crazy things that like a lot of people might not have known all of these things you've done and been a part of. So thank you so much for sharing all that with us.
Yeah. There's a whole group of us who are doing like a Clash tribute, like Duff from Guns N' Roses and everybody. But I think, I'm very grateful that, I got to, it's really interesting. There's Billy Idol.
Hey, That's my girl right there. Can we get her on the show?
But there's so many. That's me singing with Dramarama. Weird Al. There's classics there. But
who have you not met? I want to know.
You know what? It's pretty. I'm so blessed because all I ever wanted to do from the time I was a kid was be a radio host, be involved in rock and roll. I wanted to turn people on to music. I was the kid who brought records to show and tell when I was 5. I really did.
You got to meet Dan Catullo. How about that? That's amazing.
That's great. So, it's incredible for me. I think I still pinch myself because I've interviewed. You saw me there with Paul. I've done album specials with Paul McCartney. I've become friends with Ringo. And then I've interviewed all the Stones. Page and Plant from Zeppelin, and you name the artist. I've done multiple album specials with U2. I mean, tons of rock artists over the years. I'm very, very blessed that I've gotten to do what I love for a living, and I would have done it for free. But I'm grateful to. But now, of course, I do have to pay bills. So we all got to get our work. But as we all know, that because
Dave Grohl, Chris Novoselic, that's awesome.
Yes, that's true. I did a bunch of stuff with Dave Grohl. I've got a great Dave Grohl story that I can tell you guys. That I was doing the album special for Wasting Light, and his studio is in Northridge, California here. But at that point, I had lived all the way at that period of time. I had lived in New Jersey, so they flew me out to do this album special. So we were at the studio for the Foo Fighters, and I had to come back on a red eye. So the bottom line was Dave says to me, and the album wasn't out yet. He goes, "Hey Matt," he goes, "You want to hear the album again?" And I'm thinking he means a playback in the studio in the control room of the album again. I go, "Yeah, man, I love it." He goes, "No, you want to hear it live." And so literally all the Foo Fighters are in this 10 by 10 foot, what's basically like an isolation vocal booth. The 5 of them set up in a circle and me with my back against the door. And they get in there and they play the entire Wasting Light album, start to finish, full volume with me.
Wow.
Gosh, that's amazing.
And the hair was on I mean, I have no hair, but if I did, and it was amazing. And I remember Lou, who manages Dave's studio, comes in and goes, "Matt, you want headphones?" And Dave Grohl goes, Matt doesn't need headphones, man. He listens to loud music all his life.
Yeah.
But there's those incredible moments. I got to host Rock in Rio, all the broadcast for Rock in Rio before the pandemic. 7 nights of that, and I zip lined across the crowd of 150,000 people. That was another dare. So I'm having fun. I love being alive and being sober, and I'm just grateful every day. I wake up every day, and I'm grateful, and I have gratitude, and then I put on some music because that's the other thing I'm grateful for, because music has really defined my life, and I love it more than anything in the world. The fact that I get to hang out and talk to you guys today is so much fun for me. I love it. I love doing it.
Oh, thanks for coming on.
It's so fun for us too, and I can't wait to read your book, man.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna get you one, RJ.
Please, yes.
I'll just order it for you on Amazon, so they'll send you the paperback.
Okay. Oh, great, thanks. Then you get a sale too. So.
Yeah. But it's cool. Yeah. So it's the books. There's a lot of really cool stuff in it. Great stories about Bowie and just a bunch of stuff. But really interesting behind the scenes stuff. You'll find out about what it was like to be in the music department at MTV when MTV was really important, and when we were picking videos, putting on the Unplugged, and all those things. What it's like to be in A&R when you're making records and signing bands. So it's a real, if you love and want to know a little bit of the inner workings of what it's like with all those things, and even in radio. And I even had a career as a nightclub DJ for 12 years. I DJed in New Jersey, and people would come from New York to Philly would come out to see me spin. So I had some great, but I've had a really interesting, a very blessed life so far. And you know what? It's not over. 10 months.
Right.
There's a lot more to come.
You need to write a bunch of more books here before.
That's right. And now that you're sober, you'll be able to go on. I'm sure after your car accident, your health has to be in the forefront of your mind now. That has to be a priority for you.
Yeah, I work out all the time.
It shows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's so important to me. It's like people say to me, dude, man, you look like 10 years younger than you did 2 years ago. And it's like, I don't know about that, but I could say that I'm super grateful. I feel good. You know, like I said, I do a lot of hiking because I sit there. Sometimes I'll be going up the hills here in Los Angeles in Griffith Park, the famous park where like it has the observatory that was in the James Movie Rebel Without a Cause back in the day. But it's and I'm sure a million movies were shot there. But
yes, man,
you're right. Yes, but you know there are times when I'm walking up that hill and I just go, you know what, man? You have a metal rod in your leg. You have a metal rod in your leg, and you're still. You're hiking for like 4 hours and you're going all the way uphill and then down and I just say to myself, God, I am very blessed. I'm such a lucky man.
So
you know?
Do you feel like a man of steel?
You know what people say? I used to say there's none more metal at this point. I mean, because of my leg, but
you literally have heavy metal in you. Yeah.
Titanium metal rod. I'm a titanium man. You know, and again, it's, you know, I just haven't let that stuff, I'm there to help other people that have struggled with alcoholism or drug addiction, but I'm not letting it define me. It doesn't define you necessarily. But for me, it's important that I help others, and that's my main thing. You know, like doing that and just keep on doing my music. Like I said, for people watching, you can stream my show that I do Sunday nights, new and approved, or you can go to the KLOS website, right? James Dawkins just asked me what it was that got me into recovery. For me, originally it was because I was drinking too much. You know, like I had seen the signs of being an alcoholic from the time I was a teenager. I mean, I'm one of those guys who never does anything halfway. You know what I mean? I'm all in, you know, as you can tell, right, with the music and everything else. And now it's like with exercise, I'm all in. For me, it was alcohol that got me. And that's not to say that I didn't, do drugs with a lot of the people that you listen to over the years. Believe me.
Well, I'm sure if you're not drinking alcohol, you're not doing drugs, you're not doing anything addictive. There's a lot better things you could be addicted to, like skydiving. Being an adrenaline junkie, exercising. So, just channel your addictions into something a little bit more healthy and a little more fun, and you'll be better off for it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm doing now. That's just the message I want to give people. Like I said, if you want to see some of those interviews, like it just went up today, a great interview with your sister. She was fantastic. Lizzie is on there. That went up today. It's like you can go to the my daughter's cat is crying at the door.
Get the cat out of here.
Right, hear it.
Plug where everybody can watch your content and where everyone can get your book.
Yeah, the book you can order the book on like literally any of the book websites out there. You can go to Amazon. Again, the book is called All These Things That I've Done and My Insane Improbable Rock Life. Was the subtitle that they wanted to give it. So it kind of described, how I was like, well, I always wanted to be in music from the time I was a kid. And then all of a sudden here I am like with people that I admired so much. And it's kind of the stories about that journey, And the important thing is always remaining humble, with everything that you do and just staying grounded,
That is so inspiring, man. And I hope that inspires so many people. Thank you for coming here and for sharing that great positive message, especially now during the pandemic and everything. It's a very dark time. So to be able to hear that from you, to be able to hear you come out of it on the other side, now better for it with all those experiences and now living a life much healthier. I hope that inspires so many more to follow in your footsteps. Yeah, I mean, I hope so too. And I loved hanging out with you guys. I'll just finish by saying you can go to 955klos.com. And that's if you want to watch the interviews with Corey Taylor and Lizzie and with AC/DC's Angus Young. Yeah. There's a bunch of really cool interviews on there. And you can check out, we showed a picture of that set. That set looks amazing. It's literally a TV set. Yeah. It's a TV show, a radio show. And they're on Twitter, I'm at Matt Pinfield. On Instagram, I'm at Matthew Pinfield, which is with 2 T's. I saw that you have an imposter, a fake account that says the real Matt Pinfield, and it's bullshit. Yes, that's not me. So it's not real. And there's also somebody sent me. There's a new one, MP Matt Pinfield chats. That's not me either. So oh my god, which is crazy. Well, I'm gonna go fix this then. At least they're creative. Yeah. So on Facebook and on Instagram, it's Matthew Pinfield. Okay, cool. Right on. Matt Pinfield at Twitter. But guys, I just want to tell you how much fun I had, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Oh my god, it's been such an honor to have you. You're a legend in this business.
Yeah, it's just and I love it, RJ. Look at us full circle. I'm on your show 4 years later. I swear you were 13. I'm almost positive,
Yep.
right? First met.
You're right. Yeah.
It's great. And I remember you and Lizzie were just like so like I loved your passion and your hunger for what wanted to learn about what was going on in the music business. You just wanted to play and get people. You wanted people to hear your music, and it was just the best. And there's a really, if you check out the interview on that website I told you about with Lizzie, or do a search for it and find it. She tells great stories there.
Oh,
so.
absolutely. And we know full well, we're humble enough to know that we wouldn't be here without people like you supporting us over the years. So thank you for at least seeing something in us at such a young age that kept driving us towards never giving up. So thank you for that.
Well,
And thank you for taking the time to come on Stop, Drop, and Talk. So much appreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eva, it was
Loved
so much
man.
fun to be there with you and B-Rock and RJ. You guys are great, man. It's cool to hang with you. So
We'll
thank
have to do it
cool.
again sometime.
you. Look, man, it's great. I love your show, by the way. I love all the stuff you guys do in the beginning.
Oh, thanks, man. It's about to get better because we're about to talk about cancel culture. So, oh boy,
Yeah.
here we go.
But anyway, guys, thanks thank you for having me on. It was great.
You're more than welcome to
man.
come. You're more than
go
welcome to come back anytime. I hope that we make you a regular. I love just hearing your stories, and I love your positive energy. It's so inspiring, and it's infectious. I hope everyone feels so good tonight. So, Matt Pinfield, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really love doing it with you.
Anytime. Come
coming
back
on.
anytime, man.
Okay, take care, guys.
All right. See you,
Thank you.
Matt. Give it up for Matt Pinfield, everybody. Woo!
Wow, he's got some stories. Holy cow, those are
Oh
amazing.
my
That's
God.
amazing.
I could talk to him for like hours.
We've had so many guests like that. We're like, oh my God, we could talk for hours, but like we got to keep it under, a 6-hour show.
That's amazing. Wow.
Absolutely
That's a lot of knowledge.
amazing. He is. I mean, God, what an inspiration. And I mean that sincerely. He was a huge part of our career growing up. So we're eternally grateful to him for all of his support.
Well, and even just like for like my, people my age, growing up, Matt Pinfield was a huge part of what MTV was.
And here he is.
I
Talking to you
know.
on our show.
Pretty amazing.
He was so great. All right, I think it's time to get into that high note, RJ.
All right. Well, thank you all for hanging out. Let's wrap this show up with a high note, like we always do. Everybody breathe. And this week's high note is called "It's Time to Cancel the Broad Brush." That's right. The broad brush needs to be canceled because I think we're at a point where we're starting to see changes happening around us. Change is scary to some people, so their knee-jerk reaction is, "Oh my God, something I like is being burned at the stake." And they lump every situation into the same pot like the world is coming to an end. Hence why the broad brush needs to go. I think this is an issue we're all trying to wrestle with as we navigate through our modern world. Welcome back to RJ's Psychology Nerd Hour. I'd like to start with a fair trigger warning, though. We're about to dive deep into some of the latest examples of quote-unquote cancel culture. It's pretty controversial, so if you don't want to hear this, you're welcome to tune out now. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you next week. We love, respect, and appreciate you. Even if we don't always see eye to eye on everything, we're all family. We got nothing but love in our hearts. But if you'd like to hear a different perspective on some of these things, then stick around with me. Some of the greatest minds in science say the best way to expand your way of thought is to have a conversation with someone you disagree with. I think that there's many things a lot of us disagree on, but as an optimist to a fault, I think we have more in common than we think. Instead of just pushing talking points, let's take a really close look at some of these things that are making the most noise around us right now, logically and objectively. I'd like to take a moment to promote a pastime I feel a lot of us don't really care to practice much anymore. It's called thinking. If we need to think in a case-by-case basis, then we need to dissect some of these current controversies and decipher some of the key differences between changes that are being made in society to be more inclusive to other people, cultures, races, colors, gender identities, or sexual orientations, and the examples of cancel culture that blow up to George Costanza levels of out of proportion. How does that go, George? Thank you, George. Stop, drop, and talk field reporter George Costanza, everybody. Let's start with Dr. Seuss. I love Dr. Seuss. My childhood is saturated in the nostalgia, but some editions contain racially insensitive imagery, and the company who owns the copyright to the books decided to pull 6 of them. A gesture to be more forward-thinking in this day and age. That's right. Not the left, not the right, or the Twitter mob, but the Geisel estate making a what do you call it? A positive change? And I, for one, see nothing wrong with it, especially in a children's book when kids are at such an impressionable age. A kid's book which teaches them it's okay to make racial stereotypes, hell to the no. It makes sense when you say it like that, right? And in a normal universe, we probably would have just moved on with our lives. But no. Now you got people trying to make this into a culture war, huffing and puffing and screaming that we've declared Dr. Seuss hunting season. Guess what? Dr. Seuss isn't going anywhere. His enterprise just feels like it's the responsible thing to do to evolve and change with the times. Oh, how horrible. The times they are a-changin', say it ain't so, Bob Dylan. Now, if you're a closed-minded person, you might think, what's the big deal? Doesn't look that bad to me. But guess what? Your opinion isn't the only one that matters. Years ago, the same social injustice warriors took a steamy shit all over Dr. Seuss's The Lorax, claiming he was pushing environmentalist propaganda. Like they just invested their life savings in the Thneed industry. Isn't this the same crowd who tried to cancel Colin Kaepernick or the BLM movement, LGBTQ protections, face masks, the Dixie Chicks, Keurig, and at one point thought the term freedom fries was here to stay? I'm starting to think that everyone is insane. What do you think, George? I'll take that as a yes. Still, yo, it's not that deep. Chill the fuck out. I've never heard of these books, and I could care less about whatever they want to do with their shit. And from what I see, nobody wants to delete Dr. Seuss out of our collective memory like the flashy thing for Men in Black. We're all well aware of the good things, like the aforementioned Lorax, about not ransacking the planet. Horton Hears a Who is about listening to underrepresented voices. The Grinch is about not judging people by cognitive bias. Green Eggs and Ham is about opening your mind to things outside of your familiarity. Even Hop on Pop teaches us to be mindful of our elderly's physical conditions. For the love of God, people, wear a mask and get the vaccine. Do it for grandma. But how about this rage against the potato head thing, though? Oh, man. People are freaking out, claiming they're canceling their beloved childhood toy. Now, obviously, this is a pointless thing to get worked up about because, number one, I care. And number two, they're not changing the toy at all. The company is just dropping the prefix and rebranding to just Potato Head to be more universal and inclusive in their brand name. But still, even if they did change the product, what does it matter? They don't even have genitals down there. Are you really just saying, I like my potato head with a big old dynamite potato penis? I don't know. I had a Mr. Potato Head when I was a kid, and it didn't come with that attachment. Although, as you can see, I did see a real potato with a penis, otherwise known as a dictator. The only difference between Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head is one has a mustache and a hat, and the other has a purse and lipstick. So let me just get this clear. You're telling me that gender is about preference and expression and not about what's between your legs? Wow, thank you. You just kind of backed into the right argument without even knowing it. How about that? On other changes like the Washington football team, Aunt Jemima, anything with a Confederate flag, placing Confederate statues in a museum, or firing Pepe Le Pew for inappropriate workplace conduct are nothing more than signs of growth as a society. The ironic thing is I'll bet they probably called him something like Pepe Le Freedom at some point, you know? Am I right? Am I right? Now, to be fair, there are cases that go to a ridiculous level, and this, I fully agree, is harmful because it discredits the important movements in the eyes of many who would otherwise be 100% on your team, but get scared because they don't want to end up like Jenna Marbles or David Dobrik or Chris Pratt, Eminem, Kevin Hart, the Peloton instructor who danced wrong to Megan Thee Stallion. Oh, all examples of humans being humans like you and me. Imperfect individuals who have learned and grown wiser and more cultured, like you and me. You can't perfect yourself without making mistakes, like you and me. And what ridiculous levels of perfection do people expect from other humans? What the fuck mistakes have you made? I know I've made a few. What do you think, George? I know how you feel, George. What more can we ask of people called out for their ignorant ways than to evolve, learn, and better themselves? Remember the Bible. Those without sin cast the first stone. And right now you're thinking, RJ, are you seriously quoting the Bible? Who are you? Well, surprise, bitches. Yes, I am. I mean, it's definitely not my thing, but like Dr. Seuss, I can't dismiss all of it. There are still some good things in there. Like the thing about not worshiping a golden statue. You know who you are. I think we need to put the same energy we put into exposing those who have made mistakes in the past into praising those who have put in the effort to bettering themselves and owning up rather than doubling down. Regardless, though, folks, I know we're all at home bored, going down internet rabbit holes, searching for things to get angry about, but We still have a deadly pandemic, people struggling to pay rent and buy food. We're still fighting against racial injustice, LGBTQ intolerance, sexism, and inequality all around, plus all the natural disasters and environmental issues. High notes that turn into total bummers. I know. Sorry, I can only work with what I got. But why don't you just channel your energy into those much more important things than a plastic potato or a rap song that came out over a decade ago? And maybe we can get to a better collective place. Stop reacting with clouded emotions. And just maybe we'll start to feel more like this version of George Costanza. Oh, look at him go. And I believe it's time for us to go too. So thank you all so much for joining us and for sticking around. I want to thank Matt Pinfield, Eva Steele, B-Rock, Dan Catullo, and all you beautiful Stop, Drop, and Talkers out there. Please like, subscribe, and tune in next week for your favorite mental Moderna shot of entertainment.
Stop, Drop, and Talk.
And before we go,
don't forget
we
next
are
week.
announcing that next week we are the drummer from Seven Dust, the amazing Morgan Rose is going to be on the show.
Cannot wait for that one. That's
Yeah,
gonna
I
be
got
good
in the
one.
show without mentioning that.
Right?
So stick around next week. Tune in, same time, same place. We'll see y'all then. Good night, everybody! See you later.
Stop, Drop, and Talk.
COVID-19.
COVID-19.